All right, we're live.
Bro, so this food thing, that's you just made that up.
No, that's a real weight.
That's not.
Yeah, I think it's Russian for man.
Man.
Mm-hmm.
So one man.
No, I don't know what it means, but I do know it's a form of weight, form of measurement. Rather.
Back again, stars with the surface level education that we have.
I'm deep on the kettlebells. I understand it.
But you don't know what a pood is.
Yeah, it's this. This is how much weight.
That's it.
That's a pood and a half.
That's a pood.
1.5. Dick. Welcome back.
Yeah. Gosh, it's been so long.
3 weeks.
That's ridiculous.
Well, we're busy.
Oh, life happens. Hey,
We got a special guest today.
I'm nowhere near the camera.
We have a special guest,
right
Chris
he-
Weber.
There he is.
Yeah, the man, the myth, the legend.
Don't worry. I'm just the
put
guy
it on
with
that.
an arm right there. Just boom.
Wait, get in here.
Move that a little bit.
You got to move it around. We got some visual issues today. There you go. Slide back, get close.
It's not bad. Get close. That's what she said. All right.
So did you see that I reached out to Slippery Rock?
Yeah, I didn't understand anything. That's like.
What do you mean you didn't
I mean,
understand
it goes to text messages. Like, for real, Chris. Seriously. Like, when you have a text message, what you think might be what you're saying is totally not what you're saying.
Exactly. It gets lost in translation.
Somewhere.
Emotions and
Like,
people don't.
like, I don't know if I was in the same space you were when you were talking like that. I don't even know what the conversation was.
What do you?
So fill me in.
So I reached out to Slippery Rock University.
This is how it starts. Go.
Yeah, so I reached out to Slippery Rock University to, because I want somebody to do the visual. Like, I want somebody to do the video. Because I don't like this camera. I want somebody that knows what they're doing to do video for this.
Yeah.
So I reached out to them, just shot in the dark, their news program. And
like SRU. Okay.
Yeah, it's WSRU News.
It's starting to come together now.
Yeah. And it was just like, hey, more or less what I was getting at was like maybe some student wants to do something for like a thesis or they want to get some experience or some shit like that.
We did talk about an intern.
Exactly. So that's why
We talked about an intern.
That's why I was like, oh shit, because I keep watching their videos and they're awesome. Like they cover everything at the university, whether it's sports, whether it's somebody coming in to guest speak. Like they just had the one of the girls from the U.S. soccer team that won the World Cup this past, and they covered that.
That was a great game.
They have
to
a
watch,
media
too.
day and stuff like that. So they're into it. They have a newsroom up there as well.
Could we use it?
So I'm like, I don't know. So I was like, fuck it. Let me just reach out to them. Let me see what's going on. And I reached out to them, and they immediately got back to me and said, yeah, we're interested. We'll get our advisor to reach out to you. Now, they haven't reached back out, so it could totally fall on its face. But it was cool.
Hey, we got to be up on them.
Well, that's just it.
Ask for the moon. You'll be surprised what you get.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's kind of where I was at with them. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to ask. And then, actually, before that, they have a place in Hermitage that's for like startups, entrepreneurs, and things like that, where you can rent space to do podcasts.
What the what?
Yeah. Yeah, our friend who's doing that baby arrival monitor, Bam, that I keep posting about it, keep sharing her post because she's trying to get beta testers.
Okay.
She created an app where
For babies.
If you're having, not for babies,
Oh.
but if you're having a baby,
Yeah,
Making
babies
babies?
use it.
yeah, babies use it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
baby-
whenever
it's
you're
baby
making
use-
a baby, you use the app.
Oh.
Aaron, are you serious? No.
I didn't know what we're getting into.
Yeah, we're getting into sexual things. But
That's
no,
not what I said.
what that is just it's an app. So whenever the wife gives birth, you don't have to worry about texting everybody. Hey, baby's okay. This, that.
Baby arrival. Got it.
It's already preloaded.
So you just hit send.
You just hit send.
Boom.
So, boop, we're done.
That's an app.
Yeah, but she was the one who.
But how many
who let me
times?
know about
Okay,
the,
so how many times are you going to
studio.
have babies where you'll be like, I need to download this?
Well, think about this.
No.
Even if you just have one baby, that's fine. But let's talk about surgeries. people coming out of surgery needing to text that way.
Bro, he's
like
such
expanding.
okay. This is the perfect salesman right here. Like he has it all figured out. This is where it's gonna be. Now I feel like I have too much of me in this shot and not you. Anyway, let's get to the introduction
Doesn't matter.
because we're all
We're
there
all
it goes. Straight talk about random shit. That's just how it works. All right. So hey, welcome back everybody. I'm Aaron Diaz.
Ron Jordan.
And here we are with the Stars Podcast and our illustrious guests.
Illustrious.
Great
He makes up words.
great friend. I do. Great friend of mine. You know, I would put him in the best category.
Thank you.
And partner in business. And yeah, like a really good dude. Chris Weber.
Hello, everybody.
We need to have a sound machine.
We should have
Yeah,
a button.
I can make that. I can make that happen.
How cool. Yes.
Our in-house studio.
I like it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Bro, and then we only got 2 flags,
we
man.
got the
It's all right.
We got one of the most important ones, though. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He was never in. I'm just saying. No. Great veteran. How many times deployed?
only once.
One time only. There's people that haven't been. I did it. I did 6 years active duty. Never went anywhere once. Went to Beaumont, Texas, to load some ships. And
But you would have.
I would have.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
I
all
did,
that matters.
Right.
did have the hand.
Yeah,
up
you were
to-
there to be. You were there to be called.
Yeah.
You know, that's more than I could say.
Yeah.
You know.
But now you're the soldier of the civilian world, bro.
That's what somebody said to me the other day because I left JITS class to come over to Krav on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "Why aren't you staying?" I said, "Well, I got Krav." Like, "Oh, you're a real badass." I was like, "That was."
And then I'm going to run a half a marathon.
I said,
after
"It's
that.
it's yet
Not
to be
even
determined."
He does like those 90Ks
Yeah,
or whatever.
it's ultras.
Goodness.
Ah, that's a warm up. Half a marathon's like a
Yeah,
warm
I
up.
did-
Then you
I
get
did
started
12
into a
yesterday.
workout. Yeah.
Backwards.
Oh
you
my
do
God.
12 backwards?
Yeah,
Could you do that?
I'm sure I could.
Why would you though? That's like
It'd be a silly
you would
thing
look
to do.
really cool.
You know that you know
They have
something-
competitive like backward racing.
Do they really?
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
I love it.
He would probably.
You're like, what's this medal for? All right, so listen.
I ran a race backwards.
I was going backwards. I didn't trip once.
For
How many
12
concussions
bucks.
come out of
Oh,
that?
God, you can only imagine.
I'd have to wear.
They
a
probably
helmet.
have the most intense calves too. I mean, yeah.
Could you imagine
Yeah.
the calves
You
on
got
these
big
guys?
calves though.
I could do it.
Like your calves are like a size 32 waist.
Well, that's what happens when you carry around 320 pounds for a couple years.
You have to have a third measurement for his. It's like 34, 32, 34.
And
Calf.
then
Calf.
an asterisk calves.
Special skinny jeans.
Special order.
You can't do skinny jeans.
I got skinny jeans on right now.
Bro, the legs will look like a number 8. Or so-
You got the hams, the knee, and then
Yep.
the calves. Oh my God!
and then we're off.
Always had good calves. Always had good calves. Yeah,
Like that was your thing.
it was like funny.
Do you
Funny
want to
that you even
insure
mention
these?
it.
You know those that insurance.
Yeah,
insurance
Like
it's
Jennifer
too bad I
Lopez.
couldn't get my calves done or calves insured or something. It's like what's the insurance company that does
Liberty?
that? The yellow one.
The yellow one.
Yeah, like
this
they.
is what we're going with.
Yeah, because they have it's the like the ostrich is yellow.
It's
Liberty Mutual?
Liberty,
Liberty
Mutual.
Mutual, that's it.
what I said.
Yeah.
Liberty, liberty, liberty.
You plugging them now.
I guess.
There you
Throw
go.
Some cash in.
So if anybody wants to be sponsored, we'll
That's
do
his sponsor.
Geico.
It's his sponsor.
That's my
voice. Whenever he's like asking people things, that's what he does.
USA.
He flows in and out. He's like
He
a
does.
chameleon.
He's navigating the waters here.
Mhm.
But in high school, a girl came up to me and said, "You have nice calves." Of all the things to say to me,
That was it.
That's
You're
what-
you're
she
super
goes,
ugly,
I love
but
your calves.
you have great calves. I've been told that. Not
All
big
right.
calves, like nice legs.
Whenever you wear your capris,
easy
Salmon pants.
yoga pants.
Salmon yoga.
So my wife won't let me do
He
yoga because
wears
she knows
Lululemon.
she knows I would wear yoga pants.
Yeah. I mean,
That's what you got to. That's like the uniform. Hello.
well, I mean, I'm not sure you have to, but I know
Oh.
you would.
Yeah, where do you have to wear those to?
At yoga.
I've done yoga before without yoga pants.
I just wear shorts.
Really?
Yeah, you can do that.
No, I don't think so. At least in my own mind, you can't.
Well, Broad Street Yoga, I think you could probably wear shorts.
Oh.
I don't think you have to wear the things.
Yoga
Rubik's
pants?
Cubes.
Yeah, I don't mess them up because then Bria has to fix them for me. She's the one who fixes them.
The police are here.
Followed
Damn
me.
Dogs. Damn dogs.
It's like, do you have an illegal alien in there? Diaz is downstairs.
Yeah, we
Yes.
got Diaz. So you had the gun course yesterday. The basics course.
Basic and intermediate.
Oh, so we had both.
Yeah.
Nice day for it.
Man.
Oh.
You can't beat it.
I
It was
don't
great.
know. See, he came
Really?
in at the second. It was freezing the first time.
I was never.
It was-
I was there
it
the
was
whole
cold.
time.
It
I was
was
there
cold in the
early
morning.
in the morning. I left for a couple hours. But I came back. It was gorgeous
It was
out.
fine.
No, it was freezing.
No,
I
when it was
very
freezing
chilly.
is when
He's an island guy though, so
he is an island guy.
It's in my blood.
When
Manhattan
I took
Island.
that first basics course, I couldn't feel my fingers.
yeah.
That it was winter. It was. I don't think it snowed.
And yet you came back.
I did come back.
Sometimes it's
Snot
better when
coming
there's
down
some
my
snow
nose.
out. You get a little bit of insulation. I've been out there in t-shirts, snow out.
Yeah.
As long as the sun's hitting it, you're good, man. It's those real brisk like
You gotta talk
November
into the mic. Go
cold
big.
days. I'm sure it can still hear me. Where
It goes in and out.
you
but
got
it's
like a
good.
nice wind right in your face, and there's no leaves on the trees, and it's
Yeah,
just
that gets
dry
cold.
out. And,
Yeah.
man,
That's the worst.
those are the worst days.
Even
Shoot,
just even if it's just like a 2-mile-an-hour wind on you with no break, it's so brutal.
or cold rain.
Yeah.
That's the worst too.
Oh,
A cold rain.
cold and wet is horrible. So before we start talking about more about the firearms courses, maybe Chris should talk about what he does and some.
Yeah,
of the
great
things
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, great idea.
So as far as
So the people that don't know you, like the millions of people that don't know you,
The
because-
billions, yeah.
yeah, because this goes worldwide. You
Okay,
know?
all right.
Just saying. it's blasted out there somewhere. There's
We're
a satellite.
on
somebody's
radio now.
yeah, somebody's.
Yeah.
Are we live? Like
No,
No.
we're not live.
So we have to. You guys will.
We don't
some
edit
things
anything.
and
no.
just upload it on later on.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So go ahead, give you a little 5-second speech.
So we do firearms training for civilians nowadays, whereas the came up learning from the military, from various law enforcement agencies, Department of Corrections, things like that, and integrated a firearms training system into our martial arts background, and found a way to incorporate hand-to-hand combat tactics with firearms tactics and create a integral system where people can learn both simultaneously or independently, depending on what their flavor is, with the plan or the idea, the mission, I should say, to empower people and give them
Definitely.
options when faced with serious or life-threatening situations, and more importantly, to give them confidence or the confidence they need to operate and live in a world that could be kind of scary at times.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, because we've seen both sides of it. So you are one of the founding fathers of VALOR PDS, VALOR Personal Defense Systems.
Along with Aaron and I, we decided to put this thing together as a separate business venture because I was already busy transitioning from my career in the jail into working as an entrepreneur at the Martial Arts Academy and trying to figure those things out. So I had a lot of things on my plate and trying
And
to
he
figure
wanted
out
more.
Yeah. Trying to figure out how to incorporate everything into my day-to-day life and survive and feed my family and make sure that what I was doing by myself was going to be successful. But I missed part of what had been a big part of me for 10 years, which was working at the DOC and training people in firearms tactics, things like that. And noticing or knowing that these things are perishable skills, I didn't want to remove myself for too long before I started trying to do something to maintain that level of training or knowledge or not waste what I
Right.
had been
Absolutely.
learned or taught for 10 years plus, between the law enforcement part of it and then another 6 years in the military. So I contacted Aaron. I said, hey, I got an idea. I want to build a range in a box.
Yeah.
So I get this trailer, and you come over and you help me, and we'll do this thing 50-50. We'll build some targets, and pretty much didn't have an idea where to go from there. I said, I just know that if we do some things here, we can probably go around and convince people to learn from us. You know what I mean? So he was like, sure, yeah, I'm on board. Let's do it. Like, no questions asked. Didn't even had to think about it. Never even, answered right then and there. Let's go. Let's do it. So a week later, I bought a trailer. A couple days after that, in my driveway, we were out there cutting wood, making targets, setting up a trailer, and then we were figuring out where do we go from here. So I said, well, we need to start contacting some of these ranges, see if we can get in on their membership and get some of their people that are interested in doing it, and then also go around in the community, invite other people. So with a piece of paper, I sent Aaron to a gun club meeting because I couldn't be there. I was teaching at the academy. And I said, hey, show them this paper and see if they're interested in doing it. And he goes down there and says, hey, this is us. This is what we like to do. Luckily, we had a friend, Albert Ritchie. He was in the part of the club down there in Newcastle. And so he talks to them, gets them intrigued,
board.
I should say, gets them on board with it. Yeah. And they volunteered to let us borrow their range. But what him and I slowly figured out was that most of the people that belong to the clubs, they're not interested in those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
It's for various reasons. Maybe they think that they've shot for too long, or know too many things, or it's just a social thing for them. They just want to hang out. They're not interested in doing things. So we had to quickly shift our business model, instead of focusing on people that were avid shooters or had shot a lot, and focus on people that were too afraid to acquire those skills or unaware that there was a way to do so.
Absolutely.
So show them, open their eyes that there's a system out here, that there is people that are willing to teach you from scratch. You don't have to know anything.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes that's what intimidates people to learn things, is they believe that they have to already come with some sort of skill set or some sort of level of talent in it, whether it be firearms training, martial arts, or any other discipline. And so you got to break down those barriers, those walls, and show them that, hey, we are here for you from the beginning, and we'll get you. I always go with the mentality that we can train anybody. Yeah. You can train anybody in anything, whether it's buttering bread or, shooting a handgun.
Yeah.
We could teach anybody anything, give it enough time.
Back to people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, they don't know what they don't know.
Well, to back up even further, when you talked about like what holds people back from going to learn something new, is they feel like they need to have some sort of background or even just that surface knowledge of what they're going to learn, so they don't look foolish when they get there. And it's like that. It does hold a lot of people back. It held me back for a long time with handguns and everything, with a lot of different things. And what you guys do, especially at the handgun courses, it's just it breaks down that barrier and gives you a level of comfort that is. I don't think a lot of people understand that there are guys like you out there that are willing to put forth that effort and train. So it's just from personal experience. It was really cool to get that, just to be able to come in there with no experience, because that did hold me back for a while, because I was like, well, shit, I'm a dude. I should know how to handle a gun.
Yeah, right. Sure. Yeah, there's all kinds of
I
things.
I should know these things, and it's like, you don't have to.
And then we also stoked that, especially with you, because we built a relationship with you prior to you coming out there. So you had a little comfortability with us,
right?
And there's people that, like you said, don't want to take that next step, and we just try to make it as easy as possible. Another thing on top of what Chris was saying, it shouldn't just be law enforcement minded people, military people that know these tactics, these skills, because we don't have bodyguards running around us. You know, we're our own bodyguard, right? In a sense, like I want to be able to take care of my family. And okay, I didn't go to the military, or I didn't go into law enforcement, and now we as a company, we want to build that confidence in you, so that you can be able to take care of you and your family.
Yeah.
I always talk about like, hey, we're doing freaking God's work. We're trying to make people like good enough to take care of themselves and take care of their family. You know.
So back to, you can train anybody to do anything. When you decided that you were going to create this range in a box and the curriculum, how does the curriculum come about? Because that obviously that's an important piece of it. And how do you build that?
So you always go with that the crawl, walk, run mentality, you know. And so I just from doing it and teaching it for as long as I had done, I remember things and tricks that worked for me that helped me learn things. Whether it needed to be demonstrated hands-on, or could be verbalized, or had to have multiple repetitions because it's some sort of detailed tactic, things like that.
You've been training since you were like 13 years old.
Yeah, I've been learning for a long time different things, and part of the martial arts teaching and learning background comes into play there when you study how people learn. And to be frank with you, if I hadn't taught it for as long as I'd done under other people's systems and learning that way, it certainly wouldn't have been as smooth trying to create a curriculum that I believed would work. And of course, there's been adjustments, and there's always will be adjustments, whether it's something better that comes out, or hey, this isn't working anymore, or hey, this is a better idea. But I think it's just being detail oriented and being self-aware, and what has worked for me as I learned, and what I have witnessed working for others, training other systems and learning that way, and then just saying, okay, this is what we need, this is what we don't need, this is a better way to do that, and then just setting some principles. Like we talk about the principles of Krav Maga and things like that, and that doesn't just have to be applied to Krav itself or to anything. You can utilize that for how you organize your kitchen. Can that's how I organized the firearms training, was incorporating as few tactics as possible, so as not to provide decision overload or indecisiveness in the person trying to respond or save their life, and also integrating the system so as that they can flow from being hands-on with an individual to either introducing their own weapon, or taking the weapon that's been introduced to the fight either by a third party or by the person that they're in conflict with, and employing it against them to save their lives,
or just having their own weapon, their hands, their knees, their head, their teeth, anything.
Yeah, I think it's a disservice to think that, and history provides, the news provides evidence of this, that the world is something that only happened one way.
Right.
So as long as you know this one thing, you should be okay. No, you need to know a lot of different things.
Absolutely.
The fortunate thing that people need to realize is that 90% of attacks, or I don't know, what's the percentage you use?
Are made up 86%.
They're made up 86%. We'll just say the majority. All right,
it's a little more.
Somebody will look us up and be like, "Oh, we got the FBI statistics or whatever," and I don't know all of that. But I would just say that the majority of attackers or assailants, whatever you want to call them, aren't well trained. They don't have even sometimes the basic knowledge of fighting or fighting back.
Sure.
And they pick the people they pick because they think they can overwhelm them either through fear or shock, or
like Conor McGregor's not going and stealing purses.
Right. You don't I mean, I hope not.
unless you mess with his whiskey.
Right, unless you mess with his whiskey.
Yeah.
But then, of course, there's the training we teach. You should know that's coming, right? You should be able to pick up that, hey, this guy's not happy with what I'm doing right now.
Absolutely.
And I'm probably going to get hit if I continue to do it. So either I need to stop, or I need to address it, or I need to get the hell out of there.
Right.
All right. Or I need to be ready. But, obviously, there's probably other motives for that attack.
Goes back to the fight you're never in is the one you always win. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And like there's
if I can
guy,
get out of here, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah.
I'm not messing with
Right.
this.
It's not like the schoolyard, right? It's
No,
not
you
like,
don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to go back to school tomorrow and face that same
Right.
kid.
Yeah,
and
you
all
can
the,
just go
all
away.
the other kids, right?
Like, hey, bro,
You know.
do I really want to fight you? No.
People
I
people at the
don't.
office don't really challenge you to fights at the lunchroom. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Where you're,
Well, it's been done.
it has been done.
Yeah.
Well, also too, so whenever I'm going to shift gears even further back, because a big portion of this podcast is really trying to dissect why, these bigger thinkers, movers and shakers, and addressing that mentality. So when you had a steady job, you had a decent
great
living,
job,
right?
yeah.
And to step away from that, that takes some courage.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of. Explain that process.
So
Not even process, but just like in your own words. What is that?
I had I'd worked for, at this point, when I started taking over the academy for the DOC for about 8.5 years, and I loved my job. I mean, you can ask Aaron. I pressed my uniform every day. I came to work ready to go. I was upward mobile. I was probably, I was a lieutenant by this point, but I, had aspirations of one day maybe being a deputy superintendent or superintendent or who God knows what. But I just knew that I was
going
to do,
with him.
right?
I was always going to be his number 2. We always talked about that.
So I found an identity there, and in a way to flourish, and I liked most, if not all, of the people. I mean, I guess I liked everybody in their own certain ways. Some people, a little less than others, but. Long story short, so I get this opportunity. I'm studying martial arts. I had been studying martial arts on the side for years. And I was teaching. And I had approached my instructor and I said, hey, I'm thinking about possibly going, because you have to go get this license class out of the way. So they talk to you about what it means to be a licensee and the ATA. And the ATA is the organization which we train under. So you have to get this course out of the way, and it just is a check in the box. So one day, if you decide you want to go and open up a school somewhere, you already have this course out of the way, and you just call them up and say, "Hey, let's get the ball rolling."
Yeah.
So but out of respect for her, I wanted to let her know that I want to go do this, but I don't have any plans.
Sure.
I just want to get this out of the way in case an
Just in
opportunity.
case.
I had been looking at spots in Meadville, and there's up at a Walmart there, and there's a couple empty spots in there, and I'd call around. I was like, "Man, there's really nothing between us and Erie." And I thought that'd be a good spot to start. So I had a little bit of a plan, I should say, but not really anything solid. But I wanted, in case, hey, this building's open,
Yeah. So you can jump on the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. So I tell her this. She says, yeah, no problem. I think that'd be a great idea. And so I leave that night. And next day I come back in the train with her. So I was working in the mornings and I was going to the school at night and teaching. And she says, hey, before you leave tonight, do you mind hanging out after class? I want to talk to you about something. I said, okay, sure. And I figured it had something to do with that. Like intuition was like, she's going to talk to me about this. And maybe she knows something. Maybe there's a school coming open or something like that. But I certainly wasn't thinking that she was at that point, ready to retire.
Because there were no signs that she wanted to.
Yeah. So that night she pulls me off to the side of the floor and she sits down on the one step over there and she says, hey, I got to talking to my husband last night and told him what you'd said to me. And, she's like, I've had multiple instructors come through here and there have been other ones that, would have been deserving of, trying and running my school.
Yeah.
She's like, but, I don't know when I'm going to get another one. And having you walk out, I'm not sure if I would get another one to come in and replace you in the amount of time.
How about that? Yeah.
To take this over. So, I'd like to offer it to you. And at the time I was like, I have three kids, just had the third one, and getting promoted at work, things like that. So I had a lot of things on my plate, and I decided, it was a no-brainer to me. I was like, sure, yeah, absolutely. But I didn't know how I was going to accomplish it. I had no money in the bank. I had no, just bought a house and putting money into this, and I'm like, I don't know how the heck I'm going to do this.
You also just got out of debt, if I remember right, at that time.
Yeah.
Like you were in like rock bottom, and then all of a sudden you're like a year later, it's like boom,
you
here it
fight.
is.
Yeah, I mean,
and this is also something that he's taught me this. He says, you know what, you never know what next year is going to bring.
Yeah,
he said, you just keep plugging away, you're paying your bills, you never know what's going to happen next. And this is perfect proof to that.
I just had this conversation with a veteran the other night. Same thing I told Aaron. We're sitting in a car one day at work and talking about this.
Yeah.
And I said, a year ago, I didn't think that I was going to be in the Sears building.
Right.
He takes a picture of the sign, sends it to me.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I said, boom, this is it. Like, this is the spot.
And I was like, wow, this is an incredible opportunity. I called on, didn't hear nothing. Finally, probably it was within a couple of days from now last year that they finally emailed me back and said, hey, we're interested in it. So, I mean, here I am less than a year later, and things have definitely changed, and it's been a positive change. So anyway, going back to the story, taking over, I'm like, yes, that'd be great. It's great because everybody already knows you there, da-da-da-da-da. So it took me almost a year to finish doing all the things I needed to do to buy the academy off of her, and when I did get everything, I had some help from personal friends, friends of the academy,
right,
friends of her to help me purchase it, because you just can't you just can't get no matter how good your credit is,
right, you
cannot get financed to buy a place. They have this thing called an industry score or something like that, where it's like, well, how hard is it to open up an academy? Is it, and they equate it to how hard it is for somebody to open up a pizza joint. You know what I mean?
Right.
So when you talk about that and you have no real viable assets because you don't own the building, it's rental, and the banks aren't interested in heavy bags and mats and shields and targets. Like, they're not going to liquidate that. No. You know what I mean? So you have like
pennies on the dollar.
Yeah,
for that.
And we don't.
So it's very risky.
Yeah, we had less than 5 years on our home, so I have no equity or no nothing. And frankly, I wouldn't put my house up, where my family lives, up against it, because I didn't know what I was doing. You know what I mean? I have no idea how to run a business. Mm-hmm. So I do this. I take this leap and I buy the place, and slowly but surely, I make a few changes here and there. And admittedly, when my instructor sold it to me, she's like, "Hey, I keep things low key, like at this level, because this is where I want to be." She's like, "I'm not out there pumping the place. I'm not advertising. I don't even do Facebook stuff. I just kind of let people show up. They show up and they stay. Okay." You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not really here scratching and clawing and trying to grow this. Mm-hmm. And she said, so, she said, so, there's a lot more potential, And I knowing her as long as I've known her, I know it wasn't a sales pitch. You know what I mean? She wasn't trying to, I had already agreed to buy it. But she was just like, hey, you can do a lot more if you wanted to. Mm-hmm. So I'm no different than her. I'm not better than her in any way. By God, probably if she'd done what I'd done, she'd be twice as successful. Yeah. But she just wanted to keep it that way. For personal reasons, she didn't want to be that busy with the martial arts part of it. So I take it over and I make a few changes, some suggestions from her, some ideas of mine, and of course it grows. It grows real big, and it starts to consume my whatever time I have before work, whatever time I have after I'm done teaching there at night, because I'm working in the morning, 9 to 5.
Because the entire time that you're in the transition, you're still working.
Yeah, I'm
at
still
the
working.
jail.
Yeah, because
It's
I
not
have,
like you just were like, okay, I'm going to buy this business, and then, okay, see ya.
Yeah. Well, at the time, I have a job that's paying me $31 an hour. If you tell me,
Right.
if you'd have told me 10 years ago that I had a job paying me $31 an hour and I'd be considered quitting it, I would have hit myself with a shovel.
yeah.
What is this guy doing?
Yeah. What is this? What are you?
What is
are you
future Chris
crazy?
up to?
Right.
And everybody thought that too, because people that know him, like he wasn't just a slack CO. Like he was a lieutenant for the security department.
Yeah.
So like he was like he wasn't like the illustrious big dude, but he was up there. You know,
Yeah.
he wasn't. This wasn't just like, yeah, he's just a run of the mill cat. No, he was like in a pinnacle position.
So you're still grinding, both sides of it.
Both sides of it. And slowly but surely start to realize that, when I was, sometimes I'd take vacation day or something like that to get something done, and I would see my kids more. And I guess the catalyst to the whole thing was they threatened to close our institution down. Mm-hmm. And when they did that, I knew that if it was eventually going to be us, that I was going to have to make a decision. And I knew what that decision was going to be. I couldn't work for the DOC anymore because I had this academy and I have all these people depending on me. And the bottom line is I'm starting to realize that I could be pretty successful at this. Not to the level in which we've grown this far. I just couldn't imagine this. But so I started to do things to set myself up. One of the first things was of course talk to my wife and got her on board with my plan. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, let's stop using the jail's paychecks. Let's just put those off and see if we can just live off what the academy makes per month. Paying the bills from there. Because, of course, I'm still pretty new at this.
Yeah.
I'm like a year into this. So I don't have a real good feel for, the ups and downs like I do now. And into summer times, I got to save up for the summer times. And,
right.
The winter times is when I start, my enrollment starts picking up in the fall and then in early of the year again.
You see the cycle.
So I can start to figure this out. But I don't know these things yet. So I'm just trying to figure out if I can survive what this place is paying me. Mm-hmm. I do some things. I shifted some debt. I went and just got the most bare bone basic Honda I could get, and at least it for like $170 a month. And I did some things to eliminate bills. I got rid of cable. We went $8 Netflix a month. That's all we did. And so once I got all those things dealt with, I stopped living off the jail's paychecks. Probably 3 months after that, they decided they weren't closing us. Mm-hmm. But I went another 3 months. And when I got to month 6, and I'd saved up quite a bit of money at that point.
Yeah.
I decided it was it. It was just the right time. Summer. What really made me decide to do it at that point was I was researching marketing ideas, things like that, seeing what other schools were doing, and I wanted to create better martial artists. So what I had done was to come up with a plan to really. Again, self-reflecting. What made me stay with martial arts? You know what I mean? What made me learn and become what it is that I am? And I said, well, if it weren't for tournaments, things like that, seminars, trainings, learning new things, I probably would have quit a long time ago. So it was at that point when I was like, I need to do for my students what I did for myself, and as train them into becoming as good of a martial artist as a tournament competitor as they can be, because that's where I think people will find the most passion for the sport and for the discipline, and I think that will, grow the place substantially. So in an
getting
effort
that
to
competitive,
create,
getting that competitive edge, because people want to know, all right, what am I doing this for? Mm-hmm. So I'm doing all this practice for what?
Right,
There's
exactly.
definitely a purpose. It's more so that it's more than the belt. It's
Exactly. It's more than the belt.
Because that's how.
And for me, it became
into
that
it
way
too.
Yeah, I wouldn't purposely test for new belts because I still hadn't figured out how to master this belt or done the kind of damage I wanted to do on the tournament circuit at that rank. You know what I mean? So for me personally, it was never about belts, at least initially. Not initially. Initially, it was when I first started. I want to get that camel belt because I want to spar and things. Then I want to get that black belt. But after that point, it started to turn into something else. So I wanted to feed my students the same passion that I had for those things. So I was like, I need more time to do this. You know what I mean? I need to be able to commit more time to these kids and to these adults to get them, give them a feel for what I did and how I was able to be successful. And then I saw
and successful he was. He's also a 2-time world champ.
Thank you.
And he's got multiple titles. This is not and like to be on a world champ stage, and you'll probably see that this year. You're seeing
Hopefully.
people from all around. Like South America don't play.
No, them boys hit hard down there.
Jersey, California. Like you start to get on a totally different level. So he's accomplished that a couple times. So
Yeah.
But so that being part of what was feeding my thought to leave, and then seeing these other schools doing summer camps and raising money and doing things like that, I figured out that I needed to stop before the summer started so that I could be off in the morning, so that I can run summer camps, and so that I can start planning for the next tournament season and how I was going to, at the time we call them competition team camps, things like that, how I was going to make those fit into the schedule. So when I pulled the plug, I had already set up, this is going to be the new schedule because I have more time. I'm going to start a little earlier. We're going to do these things. And so I had everything loaded in the barrels, ready to go. You have to plan your retirement like 30 days out. I told them I was retiring.
Yeah.
Crazy. I was retired when I was, 32 years old.
Yeah,
but
right.
yeah.
So I retired and I started doing it. It was probably like in April. I started doing the academy thing exclusively.
So Ron, I know you like backstories. Like I know how people like for Chris to even have that mindset. I really think that you got to hear how he grew up. So I mean, you see Chris as in the surface, and how he came about to create the mentality that he has now. I think it's a really neat story. So, Chris, you grew up in the inner city.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, all around the inner city.
Yeah.
Sometimes, part-time outside of the city, depending on various circumstances and situations.
Well, talk about those circumstances and situations. So he just like myself, I grew up in the projects in New York, and it creates a certain type of mentality. With him and some of the things and the experience that you've seen as a child, I don't know how far off you want to get into it, but he has street cred, which is there's he didn't grow up in a farm. He didn't grow up in suburbia USA. Like he was inundated in like the suck of the world.
Yeah. That's ultimately the best way to think of it. But I think it to kind of set the stage to think about this and how crazy or how ironic life can become is you understand where my parents came from. So now, aside from my mother and my father, they were born to good people. I'm not going to discredit my families or on either side, but my mom and dad met in prison. They were in a federal prison. It was a co-ed jail at the time, Lexington, Kentucky, and my dad was a drug dealer, and my mom was a con artist, bank fraud, or whatever you want to call her. She had multiple things that she could do. So they met there, and I'm a little blurry on the details of how that all came about and how they had me, but they were both from Cleveland. My father got out a little bit before my mother. My mother got out like 6 months, a year later after that, and they hooked up in Cleveland, and they started living together and being together, and a year later or so they had me. And I was born to my mother. I had two sisters that my mom had from other marriages, sisters? Things like this. Yeah, older sisters from other relationships, and we lived pretty good at first. My dad had good jobs. He was working as a pool maintenance guy, things like that. But he was always side hustling, things like that. Just couldn't keep out of the criminal mentality, the criminal mindset. And we lived pretty good. during my early years of my life. I had good grandparents, I had great grandparents on both sides. And they were always like, sometimes if it wasn't for them, I would have been in real big trouble, especially with some of the situations and circumstances my parents got us into. But, coming up through there, there were times when my dad would get caught moving drugs, dealing drugs, whatever it was. My mom couldn't stop writing bad checks and things like that. And they would go to jail. And for a long time, for the longest time, it was one would be in jail, the other one would be out. And then the other one would go to jail, or sometimes the same one would go back to jail. But they were always flip-flopping. There was always one out, one in, and it was back and forth like that. And I remember they always somehow managed. I watched that, I guess, like, that's a horrible thing to have happen. But again, being self-aware and just being observant in your environment, you see how people can hustle.
Yeah.
And you see see how they can, your mother can stretch a $230 welfare check and a couple books of food stamps and stuff like that.
Which is what I think sets them up for now.
Right.
Well, that's exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some of like the horror stories that you've told about your childhood and things, but it's just like the more we get into this world of entrepreneurs and the more you get into the world of people who are successful, we love a good underdog story. We love that story. And I think it's because a lot of us come from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we see, and I think the grandparents are almost the most important part in all of this, because I had a very similar, as far as not your circumstances, but I always had a stable grandfather. Like there was always that. No matter what my mom got into, what my dad got into, I always had my grandpa. Like no matter what, we move around all over the place. Boom, back to his place whenever everything shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
So like, but also seeing the hustle that everybody does, and then also like you see that hustle that your parents did, and kind of the good and bad outcomes. Yes. And then you see the hustle that your grandparents do, and it's always stable.
Yeah.
So, like, you make this hybrid
of
the two.
Right.
And
you become resourceful, but you also become, like, more sturdy.
Yeah, and I caution people on thinking that everything has to be crystal clear.
Yeah.
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 I don't think that it needs to be, obviously.
Yeah.
Because just that griminess is really cool to see.
Yeah.
Especially now. Now that you've sludged through a lot of the muck.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
You just at some point you just realize, I think successful people, I should say. I don't know. I don't even call myself successful, but I think people that make it.
You're modest, but
people that make it, I think at some point they realize, they start to become, there's understanding between this is probably the right way to do things and this is probably the wrong way to do things, and they can make that adjustment. Right. People can. It's easy to get. Listen, the world sucks, man. And the inner cities, and it's easy to get trapped into this mindset, this mentality, this cycle of.
So, like percentage-wise, you were at a failure.
Yeah.
Because being in the Department of Corrections, we've seen families we've seen fathers, grandfathers all come through the same institution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like
they're celled together.
Is that what drew you to the jail? Was like you wanted to help people because like you saw like your parents went through that and you just wanted the other people's parents not to keep doing it?
I think that to an extent that is what drew me that way. It was, how do you say? It was like when you're in the military, you deploy, things like that. It's you create an identity. You identify with the guys around you, and you have a brotherhood or a relationship with those individuals. And I would work jobs part time, removing bodies and things like that for livery service, and running funerals. Not running them per se, but like holding doors, driving a hearse drive. But it was kind of like lonely, you know what I mean? And what pushed me one day was I would show up to work and the guy was gone. The guy that owned the place was gone. And all of a sudden, I had no paycheck, no nothing.
Like just picked up
And
gone.
rolled on me, man. I'll come back to this. Let me build this out here. I'll tell you this craziness, okay? So
I gotta know about the Houdini funeral.
yeah. So
It was like a bad
so
magic act.
I grow up in inner city Cleveland. We move around. I'm never in a school for more than a year. Sometimes I'm in 2 or 3 schools over the course of a year. My education sucked early on. I didn't understand shit. I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
Trying to learn spelling words, and you pull out of the class over here, and then you go to this place, and they're doing different spelling words, and then you're like, it's hard to adjust like that when you're a kid. So stability to me is very important when raising children, because I see that lack of that really creates some chaos with a child. And there were times when they had messed things up so bad we were homeless. We were squatting in hotels with like 15 people, dude. Like, we're just waiting for the sheriff's department to come knocking on the door and throw us all out of there. And you get into a room, you pull your money together and you give like, $50-$60 back, and then you can get in a room, you can squat in that room for 2 or 3 days before the sheriffs actually show up and throw you out. So that was always the game they would play.
Incredible.
In between things. So I would say that life was pretty normal as far as stability wise when I was up until the point where I was like maybe 8-9 years old. And that's because they were successful.
To pause you there, like what he sees as normal, people are like, "Oh my gosh, you lived like that." But no, that was his normal. I remember we did a podcast on that. Like, what's the social norms? Like, this is his normal. Squatting in a hotel. He's like, but we were good. You know what I mean? Like, nobody else has that mentality unless you were the one squatting in the hotel with him.
Yeah.
I
mean, it was resourceful. We always had never slept on the streets.
Right.
Got real close. Slept in cars, but never slept on the streets. And it was always between, they were always going from one house to another, not paying the rent, things like that. But I would say that at a certain point, they lost their way as far as whatever it was that they were doing. I used to watch my parents. They used to cut cocaine on the kitchen table. And when they were doing that, they were selling it out of the house. And so I remember one day, this is probably where the ultimate turning point in my life came. I'm getting off the bus. My bus is at a T intersection. My house is right at the front of the T. And my sister's waiting there for me. And like, she didn't even live with us. Like, why is my sister here waiting to get me off this bus? And I look up, and I could see my house is like just to the left at the edge of this T intersection. And I could see the SWAT team dragging my parents out onto the lawn in flexi cuffs. And my sister breaks me off that bus and like, don't turn around, don't look, just keep walking, because they were going to try to take me. You know what I mean? And there were times I'd hid in closets because my father had overdosed on heroin and stuff like that, and the fire department's in there. And if they see there's a kid in there, they immediately call Child and Youth Services, and then, parents get investigated and they try to take you out of there. And, for lack of better experience, I don't know, but I probably wouldn't have done much better if I'd been taken out of there. So, anyway, from that point forward, things kind of got rough. They didn't really do much time after that, but we obviously got kicked out of our house and things like this. And at a certain point, my father met this guy, and him and the two of them sat in the driveway, and they shared a needle, and it was heroin. That's where he got addicted to. And it was a dirty needle. So he got hepatitis C from it. And he got real sick real quick. I remember his urine looked like Coca-Cola. He's throwing up, falling off the toilet, just real sick from it. But he got hooked on it hard.
Yeah.
To the point where I remember he come flying in the driveway one night. The back window smashed out of his Blazer. It's all shot up. He tried to rob a drug dealer. He tried to take the dope off the dude and drive away, and the guy shot at him. Yeah. And now my mom's like, "Oh, you got these idiots are gonna come looking for us," and stuff like that, and calling my grandparents to pay these guys off, stop them from coming and hurting us and things like that. But that was the beginning of his downward spiral. Was what? And if you have never lived with a person that is hard up and is hooked on heroin, it is an experience. I had the craziest thing is you think about things that, like you talk about is normal. Normal to me was opening up the kitchen drawer and having to unbend my dad's heroin spoon so I can eat cereal.
Yeah.
Getting in a car and seeing half empty bottles of water because he's using them to shoot up in the car and stuff like that. Or driving with him when he's out stealing and witnessing him pushing shopping carts worth of stuff out of stores so he can feed his habit, and going bar to bar with him so he can sell steaks that he stole from Giant Eagle. And one of the most important things my dad, I guess, ever said to me during those times was, he said, "You look at me," he's like, "don't you ever end up like me. Don't you do these things." He's like, "Don't you ever end up like me." And so I obviously knew he knew what he was doing was wrong.
Yeah.
But when they're hooked on that stuff, dude, they can't. It's like they have a total lack of self-control. They can't do anything but think about it.
Yeah.
And going back to living with them, I would come home. I came home from school one day, and I must have missed time or something like that. He's trying to push the TV out of the house, and I'm like, "Dad, what are you doing?" I'm like in 5th grade. He's like, "Oh, some guys just try to come in here and they try to rob us real quick." I'm like, "Okay, why is the TV and the VCR like rolled over to the front of the stairs?" You know what I mean? He's trying to carry them downstairs to sell them. And I remember I had gotten a PlayStation. At this point, PlayStation been out like 4 or 5 years. My mom got her income tax refund, and she bought me a PlayStation, used one, and it was like my prized possession, man. I was like,
right.
"Man, I got this PlayStation, sweet," Or I would work, and this is where work ethic comes in, right? I would work. I would go out shoveling snow, all the neighbors, so I could go up to the local movie store and rent video games for my PlayStation and do things.
That's that entrepreneur mindset, bro. Shoveling freaking snow.
Buy Legos, stuff like that. Unfortunately, I knew my dad needed money. You know what I mean? So I'd be like, "Hey, Dad, I'll give you $20. You drive me to Kmart so I can go buy a Lego set." You know what I mean? And he'd be, "How much money do you have on you?" I'd be like, "I'll give you $20, Dad."
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I'd go buy like a $50, $60 Lego set. He'd be pissed at me because he knew that I had more money on me and he'd use it. But I remember I had this PlayStation, man, and I would hide the thing. Like I would take it out and play it.
Right.
And at night I'd put it back in its box, the box it came into, and I'd hide it like under my bed or tuck it into some clothes or whatever so we couldn't find it and sell it on me. And I would check it before I went to school every day, and I would check for it after I came home from school every day. And I came home from school one day, and it was gone. And he's going, "Oh, don't tell your mom, I'll get you." All right. Finally, at that point, that was that day when I was like, you know what, I'd had enough. And I'm like 13, 14 years old, and I stood up to him. I said, "No." I said, "You're not doing this to me anymore. This is not good. This is not okay." I'm calling people. I called my mom. I called my grandparents. I called everybody I could think of. I was like, "I'm not doing this no more. You're not stealing from me. This is not right." You know what I mean? It has to stop. And of course, people came down on him hard, this, that, and the other. My grandparents stepped in. They bought it back from the pawn shop that he pawned it in.
Yeah.
And I guess that growing up, like you said, you see the stability that they gave, and they did what they could. They could never give my parents money because my parents would never use it on me. They bought us groceries when they would call. They bought us whatever they could, but it's a sinking ship. They knew that. There's only so much you can do. My brother, he was in a much worse situation than I ever was. But, shoveling snow, mowing lawns, hanging signs, doing all kinds of whatever little things I could do, working for my grandfather to make a little bit of money and to have some things, just because I didn't have anything when I was young, just hustling,
I remember you had told me, so we've been in business. We've been through ups and downs, people freaking stealing money from us and just taking our plans and using it for their own. Like in a very short time, we've gone through this, and we've put our faith in some people that we thought were good people and have taken advantage of. So there was one guy that came up to you. He's like, "I'm going to sue you for everything you got." And I remember you said to me, you told him, he was like, "Look, I came from nothing.
Right.
I don't mind going back to nothing.
Right.
You could never do anything to stop what I got going on." Right. And where does that come from? It comes back to the beginning where the dude had freaking nothing.
Yeah.
We could always come back from something.
Right. I will always feed my kids.
Yeah.
They will always have a place to live.
Yeah.
And if it comes down to that point where I have the mentality in me that it comes down to that point where they're knocking on the door and they're trying to take it from me. I'm going to fight back. I mean, it's just going to fight back. However I have to, you know. You could try to take whatever you want to, and but it's just not going to.
So to
stop me.
have two people that came from very little and the social norms that we've seen, and for people to come and just try to take that, because we've always, these were friends of ours that all of a sudden just manipulated everything, but they didn't have the same mentality we had.
No,
you know, those guys, however they grew up or whatever social norm they thought that they had, that they might have seen like, oh, it was a bad day because I didn't get to keep my 4th PlayStation.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not, you can have that. We don't have that.
I used to live in places where you have to go like this at night so that the cockroaches don't crawl into your glasses. When you're sleeping.
So the guys that try to fault our system, our plans of what we were going to do for a business, like, my man, you have no understanding of what's about to happen, because all you're going to do is drive us. 2 years, we had 2 people. One guy tried to freaking sue us. One guy emptied our bank account.
Yep.
Another guy freaking was selling stuff out of the back of his car and was using our name to do it. You know, and our company was 2 years old.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, people would be like, yeah, but you guys are making so much. We're like, at that time, a $5,000 business. Like, you're taking half of $5,000. Like, it's really, this is not a multi-billion-dollar business.
Right.
Like, why are you coming after us? We're peanuts. We're the small game.
It's the same mentality as your dad had. It's a short game.
Yeah, it's a short. Exactly. The short
game never wins.
Get through the day. Find the bag that you need today, or find the money that you can get off of us today, or whatever. But yeah, like you said, it never wins. And you know, I think that, you know, so fast forward now. You know, I've been through all these things. I've seen ups and downs. My sister and my brother-in-law Jeff, they ultimately removed me from this situation.
Whenever you were 13?
Nah, I was about 15.
Okay.
But where stability started to come in for me, for the most part, where I found a place or calling, was I had been staying over the summers with my sister during school breaks and vacations. So I would go. My sister found out that I wasn't going to have anything for Christmas when I was like 12. So, and I didn't. I got a pair of shoes. They were nice shoes, though, but it was a pair of shoes. That's what my mom can give me. Just a couple months before that, my dad had been sentenced to 5 years in prison, so he was gone. So anyway, my sister starts taking me during holiday breaks and summer breaks for school, and they brought me down there that year, and they gave me a good Christmas. I had the best Christmas I had like probably ever. So I started to gravitate toward being in Pennsylvania and out of Cleveland at that point, but I was still going to Cleveland public schools, things like that during the rest of the year. And my sister, during that following summer, we were walking through a mall and found a karate school there, and my sister pulled a little take a number thing off the sheet there, the flyer. She called and set an appointment up for my nephew. It was for my nephew to start martial arts. And I just tagged around everywhere we went anyway. So I tagged along and I went there. Yeah. And at the time, this owner was like, "Hey, you know, we're doing a 2-for-1 this summer. He can take it for the same price as him." And she's pointing at me. And my sister looked at me. She said, "You want to go out there and try it?" And I'm like, "Nah, I'm good." And she's like, "No, we go out there and try it. It's not going to cost me anything extra. Why don't you go out there and try it?" "No, I'm cool." She's like, "No, I'm telling you, go out there and try it. You're going to be here every day anyway with us, so go out there and try it." So I was like, "All right," and I reluctantly, and I kind of did, but I kind of didn't want to do it, and it was mostly because I was tall and awkward and lanky as like a 12-year-old, and I was like, 2 foot taller than all these other kids out there. It felt weird, But I would go out there and I take the class, and we do our little thing, and I loved it. It was like boom. It was like we came home and it was like, "When's the next day? I wish we could go tomorrow. I wish we could go tomorrow." You know what I mean? And we're out in the backyard and we're practicing, and my nephew Jeff and I are coming up together during.
You
this.
know who Jeff is.
Oh, I know Jeff.
So
Shout out to
I mean,
Jeff
we used to wrestle in the house. We used to do craziest shit. Wrestling on stairs. We had this fake like foam title belt. We would fight for it, you know. And I was much better. I let him win it sometimes. Get a victory off me, and he'd walk around all happy, and I would take it back from him, and he'd be mad, and we'd fight for it, and
Fighting for the belt.
But we came up together. We learned things. I remember one day I was like, I want to do a kip up. Let's do a kip up, Jeff. So him and I moved the furniture in the living room. We start practicing how to throw ourselves up off the floor. And we did it literally all day. Finally, we started figuring out how to do it. I was like, all right, let's go out in the grass and try it. Out in the grass. And it was like, all right, we got to do it on the cement, dude. Let's go. So like from like 9 a.m. to like we got it probably by 5 o'clock. We're outside on the cement patio throwing kip ups. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We were so passionate about learning things and becoming better at this.
Yeah.
So,
Wait, how does that look? So fast forward to where we're at right now. Remember how he has his system, the crawl, walk, run, right? Mm-hmm. So he started doing kip up on the furniture.
Right.
Then he takes it to the grass. Then he takes it to cement.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what
It's
we
just
do
the way
now.
he's programmed.
Yeah.
it's like what would be the worst thing to have go wrong? Let's get to that point, and then if I could do it on there, if I can conquer that,
Right.
then it's on the mats or on the carpet at the academy or wherever.
Yeah.
It's not going to be that big of a deal, you know. That's what I train the kids for. I try, train for the possibilities and the problems that can never exist. You know you're never going to have to do that way, but it's cool because, when things aren't going exactly right for you, you can fall back on and say, all right, I've done things that are way worse than this. This is not a big deal, But so we did that. We do those things. Summer ends. I have to go back home. Of course, now I'm fully invested in martial arts. I got to do this.
Because you spent the whole entire summer.
Whole summer doing this thing, right? So I get home and I find a school. And it's out in the suburbs of Cleveland. Now, mind you, I'm living dead smack West 98th Street, right in the middle of the city. And so I don't know. This is where I think another important reason why people should, or important thing people should do is I'll just have an idea and I just start doing it. I don't know how it's going to exactly work out.
Yeah.
It's exactly how we do our business.
Right. I just
gonna show up.
I have an idea. I think we're just going to do this. Let's go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then we'll just work the problem. I don't like to, I think people get held back because they read too much into things or they see too many issues or problems before they're actually in it. And then a lot of times it's not as bad as you think it is, right?
But for being a detail-oriented guy like you are, I'm surprised that you don't dissect things more.
I think that...
Because both of you, you're both very detail-oriented, but with ideas, you just go.
Yeah. I think a certain level of confidence.
Not normal
No.
for detail-oriented guys.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a detail-oriented guy, so I just go with whatever. I don't care.
It goes back to, remember we had Aaron from West Virginia. He's an IT guy. He helped us with our mics and stuff. And he has been wanting to do a podcast for months, maybe even years. But he says, I can't put out a shit product. We're okay putting out shit product.
Our first 7 episodes were shit.
Horrible.
That's the thing. That's the thing, right? You gotta accept that this is all a process,
Right.
You
You accept it, you change, you adapt, and it gets better.
Right.
It gets better.
Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine.
Trial by fire.
Yeah.
Bro.
McDonald's was just a one person or one place restaurant until they figured out how to, do
Franchise
things
it out.
more efficiently.
Yeah.
And they tried to franchise once and it failed.
Oh,
And
really?
they did it
Yeah.
again.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
I didn't know that
They
part.
did it again. I mean, so
Ray Kroc is Ray Kroc. He's not Ray McDonald's. He took the damn
he stole
name.
McDonald's from these guys.
Do you know the story with behind
I know.
You gotta watch the movie The Founder, bro. It's so it's like the best entrepreneurial
Yes. Great
concept.
watch
You watch it.
Great movie.
Founder?
The Founder.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was on Netflix.
Yeah,
I think
it
that's
was.
what he put me on to.
I told him, so watch this movie, man. This guy's like, I mean, granted, he stole the company out from the McDonald brothers.
Yeah.
And paid them $1 million each to walk away from it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
For nothing.
crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
So he took these from people because they didn't. He told them. He said, "You didn't know what you had." He said, "I saw what you had, and that's why I'm taking it.
Yeah, but he would just do things.
It was
Dang.
It was like boss move,
Right.
Like he was just like,
Yeah.
hey, look, you know,
The founder. All right.
Founder. But yeah, check it out. I mean, he would just do things, try things, and see if it worked. And that's where they were very conservative and apprehensive about doing anything.
Exactly.
And that's
they were
ultimately
detail oriented, and that's what makes McDonald's what it is. Because you can go to any McDonald's across the world, and it's the exact same.
But they were very reserved. And I think you just have to have the guts to pull the trigger and try something. You know, I think when you've lived or grown up, or when you suffer enough failures at a certain point, you're just like, it's whatever. I don't really care. I really don't care. If I don't make it, if this doesn't go well, I'll do something different the next time.
Yeah.
So it's like him and I. We'll go. All right, we're gonna do a course on this, and we'll have no idea how we're gonna run the course.
Yeah.
So just start writing stuff down, figuring things out. There's days we don't even do that. We just show up, and he'll go, "Hey, what's the plan?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. Let's just start like this, and we'll see where it goes." You know what I mean? But it's all quality. You know what I mean? And I think it's quality because when you have a background, and when you have a passion, and when you care about what you're doing and the people that you're doing it for, I think that if you have those intangibles, that you don't really need to have a plan, because the plan is you. Yeah. You're the one that's gonna put it on your shoulders. You know what I mean?
Also, the plan's the end game. Like, what do I want to make you accomplish?
Right. Yeah,
that's the end game.
You know, how do you build people? And so we do those things. I get to Cleveland, and I call this academy, this ATA academy. It's out in the middle of nowhere. I have no idea how I'm gonna get there. My mom drives a beater, and we have no money, so I call him up. I got my belt over here. I want to do this. Can I come with you? And he calls me up. He's like, yeah, set up a time, come out and meet me. Right? This is like a newer school. He just opened it up maybe a couple months prior, and so I get into there. I talk my mom into driving me out there. Reluctantly, she does. Yeah. And I take the free class. Blah 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, I love this place. It's just me and him. Just me and the instructor. Jack McCarthy was his name. Because he had no adults. I was like the only adult. Oh, really? Yeah. So he, of course, we finished class up. He gives my mom the sales speech. Hey, this is going to be this much a month. He's already got a uniform, but we need to get him one that says Cleveland, Ohio. He's got one that says Hermitage, PA, blah, blah, blah. And she's just like, I can't afford it, blah, blah, blah. Like, gives him pushes back.
Of course.
I can't do it. So he's like, all right, well, if you ever change your mind. I think you could see the disappointment in my eyes. And I really didn't know. Again, this goes back to I really didn't know what my plan was beyond this. I just knew that I wanted to go to this school. Yeah. I knew my mom wasn't going to pay for it. She had no money.
Right, yeah, you knew
But
that
I thought maybe,
well,
maybe if I could talk to my grandparents because it's right out by their house, or somebody might step up and help me out. You know what I mean? And so I leave there, and I'm obviously disappointed because I know right now the door is shut.
Yeah.
So like a week or two go by, and I hadn't figured out a way to approach anybody about asking them to help. And then the phone rings out of the blue, and it's this instructor, Jack McCarthy, and I answered the phone. And he's like, "Hey, Mr. Weber, how you doing?" He's like, "Is your mom around?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Can I speak to her, please?" I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "All right." He's trying again, like, "Come on,
yeah, he's
save
like
me,
following
man."
Up.
And so I hear her talking, and she goes, "Well," she's, "Oh, well, okay, all right, maybe I could do that." And he's like, okay. She's like, he hands me the phone back like after 2 or 3 minutes and says, hey, he wants to talk to you. And so I picked the phone up, and he's like, hey, he's like, can you be here every day after school to clean the mats, clean the locker rooms? And can you hold targets for me during class? Because you're not an instructor, but I don't have anybody else. So I'm like, yeah. Like, I know now what he's meaning.
You're on it.
And he's like, all right, as long as you can do those things, you can take classes here. And I was like, oh, bro. I'm like, sweet.
I'm in.
So what ends up happening is when he was on the phone with my mom, he's like, can you just get him here? You just get him here. And,
yeah.
And that's where she was like, I don't know. I guess maybe I can. I don't know. That's where she was going. And then finally she was like, yeah, I'll get him there. Like he forcefully was like, get him here.
Get him here.
And that worked for maybe a couple of months. Eventually she started whittling, and he's like, what's going on? You gonna get here? And I could slowly start to see this opportunity slipping out of my fingers again. So I made an adjustment. Back then, we had bus passes to ride mass transit to school.
Okay.
Instead of regular school buses because there weren't enough. But the school was much closer to walk to than the academy was, because the academy is all the way on the other side of the city. So what I did, and the bus passes were good for one way and back, no matter where you were going.
Yeah.
So they didn't know if you needed to use it to go to school or whatever. So I would walk to school a couple of miles to and from,
And then
I would take that bus out to the academy.
Resourceful.
Yeah,
And-
that's it.
And I had to transfer. I would come home. I would have like zero time because I would be home by 3:00 roughly if I hustled back, and I had to catch that 3:15 bus because it would take me into the inner city, and I had to make a connection. If I missed that connection, it'd be an hour late to work. So, and when I'm talking work, I'm like 12 or 13 years old.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I'm thinking I'm working because
Yeah.
I'm trying to stay in it. I'm trying to stay in this fight. And so I think ultimately there was a number of factors that intervened and saved me from that cycle that we were talking about, how people get trapped in these cities and in these things.
Yeah.
Is because I had no time to find out how to do bad things.
right.
I went to school. I came home. And I got on a bus. And when I was at my most vulnerable years, you know what I mean? I was too young to understand what exactly was happening when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. But when you're in that early teenage phase, that's where you're going to start to pick up either good habits or bad habits. Mm-hmm. And so I started going to school, running home, dumping my book bag, grabbing my gear bag, getting on that bus. And then I would ride the bus an hour and a half or so out to the school in Cleveland. I would train there. I would first get in there, mop the mats. I'd go back, clean the toilets, clean the locker rooms up, and then I would just sit there and wait for him to need me to do something. You know what I mean? Organize stock room, hold targets for hold boards, whatever. And I would take my class. And again, I was taking class. I was getting like private lessons for the first 3 months because it was just me and him.
Yeah.
And I was sparring at that point. I tell the kids this at the academy. You know, I hadn't gone to a tournament at this point ever. And so the only person I've ever sparred is my instructor, and it's 6 months before I scored any points in sparring. You know what I mean? And these kids, they cry because they get second place at tournaments. I hadn't scored a single point sparring for 6 months. And then when I did score a point sparring, it was like some bullshit punch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That wasn't even, I was like, man, it would be like sweet if my first point was like a kick to his head or something like that. But I just got lucky, you know?
Yeah.
But, so anyway, I ride this bus back and forth. You know, I'm not getting home until, you know, classes are over. We're late there. So like 9 o'clock, I'm not getting home until 10:30. Finish up whatever homework I have to do, and then I'm back at it the next day. And it was Monday through Friday, Saturday mornings, every single day. I had no time. Yeah. I didn't even want to be home on Sundays. So I found other things to gravitate toward, like going to skating rings and things like that. My sister would come up from Pennsylvania and visit on the weekends, and she would pay for my skating ring fees to go in there. So I skated every Saturday, every Sunday, Friday nights, whatever I could do. I was just out of the house.
Very busy.
So I tried to. So, you know, I do those things, and eventually the bottom falls out at home. Both my parents go to prison, and for a short time my mom was, she came right back out. My sister was like, no, I think we're going to, I asked her if I could just start living with her in Pennsylvania. And she's like, yeah. So during the course of that last summer I was there at home, I had moved all the way into Pennsylvania when I was 15, and that's when I started going to school locally and teaching out here and doing my thing with the martial arts thing here, you know. So, and, you know, I joined the Marine Corps because I didn't have, I lived with my sister, you know, I had no plan after high school, but I knew 9/11 had affected me, and that's why it was actually that day when I knew I was going to the military. I just didn't know what I was going to do.
Imagine that, another, I don't know what I'm doing, but we're doing it.
Just going to do the military thing.
So, like, we've been going pretty strong for like a good, looking like an hour and a half or whatever, hour and 20 minutes. Like, I mean, this will be like, I'd like to have you back, like whenever you want, you know. But we could do a part 2, like the veterans times of Chris Webber. You know?
And I can tell you more about how
absolutely
delivery service and all that stuff. And
I do want to get back to the Houdini funeral guy too.
Yeah.
So we don't have to do that today, but we can save it. No, that's absolutely fine. Yeah. I think that's a good place to wrap.
We could do like Chris Webber part 2.
Oh boy.
The real Chris Webber part 2.
I feel like we could go make this a volume set.
Yeah.
Because just for the simple fact that, like, I appreciate you sharing everything, and you're very candid about it. And just from a parent's perspective that has a child that goes to your school, I mean, it's great to hear where you came from, and then kind of the program that you built at that academy is fantastic. I mean, it is really an open environment for anybody to come in, and I understand it now, though. Mm-hmm. I understand why it's the way that it is, and it's just really cool.
Yeah.
It's very cool to see how all of those not so great situations have helped hundreds of kids now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
That have come through those doors, and parents too.
It's an extremely powerful thing. You know, it's bigger than me. It's bigger than anybody else. You know, it's just you can reach so many people and save so many people. You know, from lives of tragedy or from doing tragic things. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Veterans, that are not doing so well, they gravitate toward these things, and that's one thing. You know, is if there's ever any veterans out there that need any help, we're here. You know, we'll come talk to us. We'll figure something out.
Yeah,
we'll give you something. I think that for me, again, going back to, you know, the jail thing and calling Aaron up and saying, hey, because I felt when I called him that I lost part of my identity. You know what I mean? Like, I taught people how to teach, how to shoot guns and tactical teams and how to clear buildings and things like that. And I had a passion for it. I loved doing it.
Right.
And I needed that little piece of somehow back into my life. Mm-hmm. And
that probably started with your whole, I mean, not to mention your upbringing, but like the second part of you being a veteran and having that esprit de corps, and there's so much things that come with just being part of a team,
right? And that's what I think that martial arts can help people, you know, that are lost or need to be part of something. Yeah. So and for me, that's how it worked. And that's why Valor was born and everything.
Yeah. So in closing, because we are going to make this a big, I really think that we can really go above and beyond with this. So for people to find you, how can they find you?
They can find us on Facebook. We have several Facebooks. We have ATA Grove City. We have ATA Hermitage. We have Valor Combat Academy Headquarters, Valor Combat Academy of Meadville, and Valor Combat Academy of Hermitage, as well as we have ValorPDS.com and ATAGrovecity.com and ATAHermitage.com. Our phone number is 724-450-0808. You can friend us on Facebook, send us messages, whatever it is that you need to do. Yeah. There's multiple ways you can stop in, just visit us. We take people. We always have open enrollment for all of our courses, so we never will turn anybody away for any reason. So stop in and see us if you are interested.
Yeah. So we usually put our tags on our YouTube page, so.
We'll put it in the notes. Thanks, guys, for joining us, and stay tuned for part 2.
Yeah, can't wait.
See ya.